If you're trying to move to Portugal in 2026, there's a 70% chance you're looking at the wrong visa. I'm going to show you why, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which of the three main Portuguese residency routes actually fits your situation: the Golden Visa, D7, or Digital Nomad Visa. Here's what most people believe: that the Golden Visa is the premium option, the D7 is the cheap option, and the Digital Nomad Visa is the easy option. Pick whichever one matches your budget and you're done. That's the conventional take, and it's wrong in a way that costs people years of their life and tens of thousands of euros in misapplied legal fees. These three visas aren't tiers of the same product. They're completely different products for completely different people, and the question isn't which one is best, it's which one is right for you. I run Moving2. We've processed thousands of Portugal residency inquiries, and I can tell you that the single most common mistake we see is people self-selecting into the wrong visa before they ever talk to a professional. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly who each visa is built for, the trade-offs nobody talks about, and the question that decides which route you should actually take. The question that decides everything. Before I break down the three visas, you need to answer one question. It's the question that determines which route makes sense, and almost nobody asks it up front. Are you actually planning to live in Portugal, or do you just want the right to live there? That sounds like a small distinction. It's not. It's the entire game. If you want to actually move to Portugal, pack up, relocate, become a tax resident, enroll your kids in Portuguese schools, then the Golden Visa is almost certainly the wrong product for you. You're overpaying massively for optionality you don't need. The D7 or the Digital Nomad Visa will get you there for a fraction of the cost. But if you want the right to live in Portugal without actually relocating, a residency card, a path to EU citizenship in 5 to 10 years, freedom to travel Schengen, and a financial hedge against whatever's happening in your home country, then the D7 and the Digital Nomad Visa are wrong for you, because both of them require you to actually spend significant time in Portugal. The Golden Visa is the only one of the three that gives you a legal residency with minimum stay requirements of just 7 days a year on average. So that's the fork. Relocating versus optionality. Get this wrong and everything else you do is wasted. And here's the thing, most people think they want to relocate, but when you walk them through what that actually means in practice, half of them realize they want optionality. We'll come back to that. First, let me break down each visa so you can see exactly what you're choosing between. The Golden Visa. The Portugal Golden Visa is residency by investment. You invest 500,000 euros, almost always into a regulated fund now that real estate is off the table, and in exchange, you get 5-year residency permit that converts to permanent residency or citizenship at year 5. Note, Portugal's parliament approved extending this to 10 years for most non-EU applicants in April 2026, though the change is pending presidential review. Here's what makes it unique among the three. The minimum stay requirement is essentially nothing. 7 days in year 1, 14 days in each 2-year period after that. You can live anywhere in the world during those 5 years. You're not a Portuguese tax resident unless you choose to be. Your family, spouse, dependent children, dependent parents all get residency under the same application. Who it's right for: high net worth families who want EU citizenship as a hedge, Americans worried about political risk, business owners who can't relocate because their company is somewhere else, anyone who wants the Portuguese passport at year 5 or 10 without actually moving to Portugal. Who it's not for: anyone who can't comfortably write a 500,000 euro check and lock that money up for at least 6 years. Anyone who's actually planning to move and become a tax resident, because the cheaper visas will get you to the same place. And anyone whose primary goal is lower cost of living in Europe, because if cost is your driver, this is the most expensive way to solve that problem by an order of magnitude. Real cost is when you add it all up. 500,000 euros invested capital plus roughly 15,000 to 25,000 in legal fees, application fees, and biometrics across the family plus fund management fees over 6 years. Call it 560,000 to 600,000 euros of total exposure, of which most is recoverable at exit if you pick the right fund, which is the whole reason fund selection matters so much, and why I made a separate video on exactly how to pick one is linked in the description. Now, if that profile doesn't fit you, if you can't or don't want to commit €500,000, there's a much better option that almost nobody outside Portugal talks about properly. the D7. The D7 visa is the route Portugal has offered for years to people with passive income. It was originally designed for retirees, but in practice, it works for anyone who can prove a stable, recurring income stream that doesn't require them to work in Portugal. The financial requirement is dramatically lower. You need to demonstrate roughly 920 euros per month in passive income for the main applicant. That's the Portuguese minimum wage, plus 50% extra for a spouse and 30% for each dependent child. So a family of four needs to show roughly 1,900 euros in stable passive income. That can come from pensions, rental income, dividends, royalties, annuities, anything that's not active work. Who it's for: retirees with pension income, financially independent people living off investment income, anyone with rental properties throwing off cash flow, and increasingly younger people who've structured their life around dividend portfolios or passive business income. Here's the part nobody tells you. The D7 is not a lifestyle visa where you can come and go as you please. To maintain it, you need to actually live in Portugal. The rule is no more than 6 consecutive months or 8 non-consecutive months outside the country in any given year. Break that and you risk losing the residency. So if your plan is get a D7 and visit twice a year, you're going to lose your status. The D7 is for people who are genuinely relocating. The other thing nobody tells you, when you become a Portuguese tax resident under the D7, you're now in the Portuguese tax system on your worldwide income. The old NHR tax regime that made this attractive was effectively closed to new applicants in 2024. The replacement program is much narrower. So if you're coming from a high tax country, Portugal might still be a tax improvement. If you're coming from a zero income tax jurisdiction like the UAE, you'll be paying meaningfully more tax than you do now. Run the numbers before you commit. Total cost of a D7, roughly 3,000 euros to 8,000 euros in legal and application fees for a family, plus proof of accommodation and the income threshold, a fraction of the Golden Visa, but you have to actually live in Portugal. And then there's the third option, which is the newest and the most misunderstood of the three, the Digital Nomad Visa. Portugal's Digital Nomad Visa launched in late 2022, and it's specifically for remote workers earning income from outside Portugal. The income requirement is higher than the D7. You need to show roughly 3,680 euros per month, which is 4 times the Portuguese minimum wage. That income has to come from remote employment, freelance work, or your own business based outside of Portugal. There are 2 versions of it that nobody explains clearly. There's a temporary stay visa, which gives you up to 1 year in Portugal without becoming a resident. Useful if you just want to try Portugal without committing. And then there's a residency version, which puts you on the same long-term path as the D7, with the same eventual route to permanent residency and citizenship. Who it's for: remote employees of foreign companies, freelancers with international clients, founders of businesses incorporated outside of Portugal, anyone whose income is location independent and high enough to clear the threshold. Who it's not for: anyone whose income comes from a Portuguese source, anyone earning under the threshold, and critically, anyone who's not actually planning to live in Portugal. Same as the D7, this is a relocation visa, not an optionality visa. The minimum stay requirements are real and they're enforced. The Digital Nomad Visa is in some ways the most flexible of the 3 because you can start with the 1-year temporary version, see how Portugal actually fits your life, and then convert to the residency track if you want to stay. That's an option neither the Golden Visa nor the D7 gives you. How to actually choose. Okay, so here's the decision tree. This is the framework I walk every client through. Question 1. Can you and do you want to relocate to Portugal full-time? If no, stop. Golden Visa is your only real option of these 3. Don't waste time on D7 or DNV. They require physical presence you're not going to give them. Question 2. If yes, you're relocating. What's your income source? If it's passive income above 920 euros a month per adult, D7. If it's active remote work above 3,680 euros a month, Digital Nomad Visa. If it's both, you usually want the D7 because it's the income threshold that is lower and the rules are more established. established. Question 3. What's your tax situation in your home country? And what does becoming a Portuguese tax resident actually cost you? This is the question that flips a lot of decisions. We've had clients who thought they wanted a D7, ran the tax math, and realized they were better off staying non-resident and going with the Golden Visa instead, even though the upfront cost is 20 times higher because the multi-year tax difference more than paid for it. This is also where US citizens need to be extremely careful, because PFIC rules and the end of the old NHR regime changed the math significantly. The mistake almost everyone makes is starting with the visa and working backwards. The right way is to start with your life, where you want to live, what your income looks like, what your tax situation is, what your 5-year plan is, and then pick the visa that fits. Here's what to do with this. Before you start any application, you need 3 things mapped out. 1, a clear answer on whether you're relocating or whether you want optionality. And be honest with yourself, because this changes everything. 2, your income picture and how it lines up with the requirements of each visa. 3, your tax position in both your home country and Portugal, modeled across the next 5 to 10 years, not just year 1. If you're leaning Golden Visa, the next step is fund selection. And I've made a detailed video on the framework I use to evaluate the 39 approved funds, linked in the description. You can also see all 39 funds with independent legal verification at funds.movingto.com. If you're leaning D7 or Digital Nomad Visa, the next step is mapping your income against the requirements and getting clarity on the tax piece before you file anything. We do this with clients on a free initial call. Book one at movingto.com/contact. Our team includes licensed Portuguese lawyers, and we coordinate with US, UK, Australian, and EU tax advisors so we can model the full picture for your specific situation, not a generic one. The thing I want you to take away from this video is that the 3 visas are not better or worse versions of each other. They're tools for different jobs. Pick the one that fits the job you're actually trying to do, not the one that sounds the most prestigious or the cheapest on paper. In the next video, I'm going to break down the 3 biggest red flags I've seen in the Portugal Golden Visa. Fund prospectuses, the specific warning signs that should make you walk away from a fund immediately. Subscribe so you don't miss it.